Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of FA Live. My name is Caitlin Brower. I am the Director of PR, Social Media, and Events here at First Advantage, and I'm also your host of FA Live. We have a really awesome show today. It's a lovely follow-up to last week's episode where we dove into the technology industry and background screening kind of trends, the future there. So today we're going to take it into another industry, and I've got another great expert here with me today. So I have Matt Levin, Enterprise Account Executive for Retail and Hospitality, here with me. And our topic is at the bottom of the screen, like you can see: high volume, high speed, optimizing screening for the retail workforce. Matt, so great to have you on FA Live with me. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience? Oh, I think you're muted. Hold on. This happens.
Oh, there we go.
There he is.
Thank you for having me. So happy to be here. I think this is lucky number 7 FA Live. So
yeah, it could be.
I'm very fortunate. Thanks for having me. As you said, I'm a key account sales here at First Advantage. Been in the background screening industry for about going a little over 9 years. Not new to recruitment, talent acquisition, sort of cut my teeth almost 20 years ago in that space. So very familiar with the buyer and understanding the full cycle of recruitment, from applicant tracking to recruitment all the way to background screening, onboarding. What I love about retail specifically is exactly what you said. It's high speed, it's high volume, it's high energy. And that's what our best partners in retail bring to us. It's about brand obsession. It's about brand reputation. And it's winning the war for talent. With most people start out in retail. And what we're finding out is that they're finishing, they're starting and they're finishing in retail.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, again, thrilled to have you on with me today. You said high energy. Let's bring that high energy into it. I want to remind our audience, if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube watching us live right now, if you have any questions for Matt throughout the episode, go ahead and put them in the comment section across these 3 platforms, and I'll get them over to him as I see fit. Diving right into things, we're talking about retail industry background check. So can you walk us through your experience with retail customers and what makes their background screening needs unique?
So I think our guest last week, Brian Skinner, said it best. Very familiar with technology and media. This is brands. This is something that we're interacting in our everyday lives. It's your family. It's your friends. It's your colleagues. We approach these brands, we live these brands, we breathe these brands, and it's something that I'm passionate about because you're brand obsessed, you love retail. So for me, it's getting in there and it's identifying these brands that you love, and you are not only the consumer, but you're in essence, you're so many things. You're the consumer, you're the employee, you're the partner, you're an investor. And so really it's a full rounded solution in retail and very unique. Again, we're talking about high volume, sometimes lower, entry level wages, so how do we manage risk and speed and make sure that, the brands that are the most recognizable in the world are maintaining that reputation to the highest standards?
I love the comment that you made that we're living these brands. So that's why it is so special to you, because you're working with customers that their brand is a part of your everyday life. So being a part of that entire process, I can tell, is definitely something that you do live for, and you really do, love working for these customers.
I can tell you that my kids think that I'm the super coolest person when I'm pointing out brands where we may be in a store.
Right.
I'm like, this is our partner and this is so great. And don't you feel safe? And right. So I take it maybe a step further, but it's.
No, I think it resonates with all of us. I'm always stepping out into the world and seeing a logo, drive by a logo, and I'm like, "Ooh, big customer. Love that." So it really is exciting, I think, for all of us, and really for you to be really at the forefront of all of this. So what are the top screening requirements that retail employers typically prioritize?
It's a great question. So, I think people in retail assume that, it's because it's maybe an entry-level position or maybe lower wage or entry-level wage, that the need for spending money on a background screen is sometimes not necessary. right? We just got to get them out, or they're only going to stay for a little bit of time. But the misconception is that it really all revolves around safety. So
Yeah.
if you think about it, we have our frontline workers. Not only do we have our frontline workers, we have people that are not on the front line that are fulfilling orders, maybe in a warehouse. And then you even have someone that may be answering phones to take an order. And then you
Mhm.
maybe have someone that's delivering something to your doorstep. We've seen that increase in the last few years. So, right, few people are actually going to the store. Maybe they're starting their search online, but now you have someone that may be entering their home. That's a pretty scary thing to
Yeah.
be. And a lot of times it's the company that has these overarching partnerships. And so you don't necessarily look at the small company that's maybe doing the delivery for you that last mile. You just associate with that brand. So, how do we balance the risk of that brand? Because it's a global brand, headlines are not cool when it comes to bad things happening. Executives don't like that. Consumers shy away from going to these places. So, really, the impact of a bad hire or not doing a background screen, it's a waterfall effect. And so what I see executives, what I see the top retailers, hospitality companies doing is managing that risk, understanding that there is a need to screen and leveraging technology, leveraging speed with partners like First Advantage to help get that candidate in through the application process and on day one as with as least amount of friction as possible.
I think it's critical the point you brought up right away that it doesn't matter the wage of an employee. When again, if you're thinking of that retail come to mind, that kind of like brick and mortar look and feel, it's someone that's representing your brand. It's someone that is working for you. So really having that end-to-end background screening program is critical. So really good point you raised there. My next question for you is a two-parter, and it relates directly to retail because of high volume seasonal and things like that, the uniqueness of the retail industry. So how are you seeing retailers balance speed and risk during this during high volume and seasonal times? And then are you seeing any shifts in how the background checks are being used during this time?
Absolutely. And I think we can give a round of applause to a couple of years of our life, with COVID. And
Yeah.
what that allowed us to do is really take a step back. And not when I say we, I mean the retail industry, the family, right? We live it, we breathe it. And so it was really a true paradigm shift in recruitment and how we run background checks. Because if you think about it, a lot of our partners were key in the hiring of hundreds of thousands of necessary workers during those time. So with some of the courts being closed, how do you manage that risk, the need to fill hundreds of thousands of positions in a short amount of time, and business as usual for these companies? And so what that allowed us to do is really look at automation,
Mhm.
look at some of the searches that we could mitigate some of that risk, bring in where we know we could get something back. First Advantage, leveraging hundreds of millions of records, we're able to bring some of those sources to light sooner than later. Working with companies to build processes for progressive workflows. Maybe it's we're going to do an identity screen up front to make sure that person is indeed the person they say they are. We're going to run some proprietary database checks. Maybe we're going to do some monitoring on the web to see what the social profile looks like. I think
Mhm.
doing whatever we can to make those checks and balances. Maybe we're not running the full gamut search, but we're running something to make sure that that employee is going to represent our brand well.
It's a really good example to bring up. And, let's hope we never face something like that again, but it does directly relate to your traditional back to school hiring, holiday season hiring. It is very, very high volume, but there's ways that you can still do it properly. With us at First Advantage for sure.
Exactly.
So, are there any specific compliance challenges that retailers are facing in background screening? This looks at your across multiple states, locations, things like that.
You may get some stuff in the chat here, Caitlin, but I'm just going to throw out some fancy word, ban the box. All right, so ban the box jurisdictions, they're popping up everywhere, and really maintain and have a partner that can keep you up to date on those laws. It's not just up to date on the laws, what it means, but how can a partner help you get through that, where you're still reducing that time to hire, turning hours or turning days into hours, because making sure that you're sending out the correct adverse action in the right jurisdiction at the right time, that's always changing. I can tell you in the 9 years that I've been here, a shift where drug testing, that we've seen a huge shift in that. Companies 9 years ago, I don't think marijuana was mostly legal, right? Today it's mostly legal. And so how do companies, again, mitigate risk, make sure that they're adhering to those laws, ever-changing laws, to make sure we're compliant, and make sure, again, that we're screening the candidates to represent our brand?
Well, we might get some questions in the chat, but I will say, and I'll promise to our audience, that we will have an episode upcoming soon for compliance. You brought up drug screening. We will tap into that. So there's always going to be a flood of education for our audience, and I will be there, and I will get that out there for all of you. Matt, you touched on automation a little bit before, so can we go back to that and dive into that just a little bit further, because around the role of automation and technology, and what does that do to help retailers streamline and scale their background screening?
Yeah, I think automation is critical. This is an industry, I think when I came into it, 10 years ago, a lot of it it was very antiquated industry, where for years and years and years, if you look at the last 5 years, it's speeding tremendously. Yeah. Right? As you talk about courts and automated access to court records, we're obsessed with speed. We're constantly improving our automation to increase turnaround time. It's what matters for retailers. It's what matters for companies that are competing for the war for talent. It's what matters when we're looking for high volume, high speed, and specifically optimizing the program.
Yeah, it's taking us to the next level. And Brian and I joked about it last week, because 20 years ago, he was the one manually doing background checks for me. So he's from there to now here we are with what you've said, how far we've come, how fast this industry is. And it really is amazing to see all of that unfold, right in front of us every single day.
Yep. And First Advantage, again, we're investing hundreds of millions or millions of dollars in technology, right? More money in technology. And what does that mean? It's back-end AI, it's fulfillment, it's process improvement, a lot of stuff that no one's really going to see, but you feel it. And when I mean you feel it, the candidates feel it when they're filling out the background screening form. What are we automating for them where they don't have to create duplicate entry? What are we automating on the back end that we have access to incredible information that we could repurpose and leverage? Obviously adhering to FCRA and the compliance laws.
It's exciting to see, but most importantly, it's delivering that experience to the customers and to the candidates, like you had just said.
Absolutely. It's what, again, I'm focused on retail, but experience matters.
Yeah. Absolutely. That should be the title. Experience matters. But it brings us perfectly into our next section. We're talking about customer support now. So how does First Advantage's verticalized structure help address the specific needs, of our retail customers?
Well, Caitlin, that's a great question, because I think one of the episodes of FA Live was at our user conference, Collaborate.
Yes.
And it's something that we implemented early on, pre-COVID, was a vertical strategy. It's because, what Brian talked about last week with tech and media, I think it's more closely related to retail. But when we start talking about healthcare and we start talking about transportation and finance, these are much different industries. I think the end result is the same, as we're trying to protect our employees and our consumers from risk, but there's different laws. There's different types of screening that you have to adhere to, specific to an industry. So verticalization is huge. And frankly, companies come to us because we are the category leader when it comes to high volume. And so if you want to know what the best and brightest in retail are doing, you can help benchmark. These are our customers. This is our retail family. And so like-minded people want to learn from like-minded people.
I think they do. And I saw it firsthand at Collaborate and through other platforms where we give our customers the chance to speak to each other. I think our audience loves examples. They love hearing the stories. So can you share any examples of how our tools have helped retail customers improve efficiency?
Yeah, I can give a couple examples. One, if we go back to COVID, I think this is an incredible story. We had a very large retailer that had just come on to First Advantage. In fact, they were with a previous partner for it was like 15 years,
Wow.
and they went live. I think it was like the end of January of 2020. I don't have to tell you what happened about 30 days later. So
Right.
imagine 100 plus thousand hires a year, entrusting a new partner to take on your screening when nothing that we ever experienced on this call happened.
Mhm.
We fulfilled, we leaned in, and I believe that we got a email from the head of the talent acquisition saying they never could have done what they had done without a partner like First Advantage. So that's incredible. And then when
That
I tell
is.
you first, when this employer was critical to what we were doing during that time, um, with passion, I can honestly say that. And again, I think you see great stories when I'm at Collaborate. You know, we're talking with our
Mhm.
partners, and it's just great to see companies that you would compete with 100 times out of 100, and those are the ones that are having lunch together and they're talking
Yeah.
and they're sharing best practices. Like those stories, I mean, we can just keep going on and on, but it really is, it's a partnership, it's a family, and we do great things here. I mean, we are as I stated, we are walking in. I can walk into a lot of these brands that you can recognize today and just know what we're doing. It's very powerful.
It definitely is powerful. And hey, I look forward to the opportunity of, getting a retail customer here with us to continue sharing those stories. So, hey, maybe in the future FA Live episode, get someone on to keep that storytelling going for sure.
Experience matters. I think we
Yeah,
already have that
right.
title.
That's the title. We got this. So I would say, whoever's out there watching, let's go. Experience matters. But let's look to the future of background screening in retail. What tools or technologies would you recommend retail companies using to use, to enhance their screening process and address any pain points?
Well, here's a news flash. Gartner came out with a study. So 1 in 4 candidates by 2028 are going to have some sort of fraud associated with
Yeah.
them when they apply. That is super impactful. So I can tell you right now that 9.5 out of 10 companies that I'm talking to, they're asking about digital identity.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it's on the forefront. Cyber attacks and deep fake. It's just in our daily lives, and so I'm constantly having companies reach out. They want to be informed about it. I think there's some hesitancy on what it looks like to implement, but there is a lot of focus. So typically with something like this, when you see a groundswell, I think you're going to have your leaders that are going to be early adopters, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be playing catch up on that. So digital identity, number one. Know that there's tools that you have available to you, right? It's not just
Mm-hmm.
running stuff through courts. There's public profiles out there that, if done the right way, there's compliant ways to search that information. And we're talking about retail, and we're talking about high volume, high speed. If you can get an instant response back to know that Matt or Caitlin are going to be good representation of the brand, there's ways to
Yeah.
do that. I would say using a service where you can consolidate some of these systems. If you're using disparate systems, bring them into one,
Yeah.
right? And focus on a partner that can really help you through that candidate experience. We said experience matters. So leveraging all the tools you can within the best time where you can capture that. And if you offer a candidate a position and they love your brand and they love your experience, it really should flow all the way
Yeah.
through. And if they're doing background and they're doing maybe work opportunity tax credits, I-9, there's a lot going on there, right? Bringing all this into one and a seamless experience for the candidate, it's a win. That's the future.
I stress this a lot on all of our episodes because you just listed off, a lot of good things there. It's to the customers or even, prospects that we're talking to. Ask Ask away, ask questions, because that's how you'll find out. You just talked about disparate systems. How do you bring them together? Ask that question. We can do that for you and we can figure that out. If you're curious about digital identity, and it was funny when I asked that question, I wanted to like hold up a big poster that just said digital identity, because this data that you shared is scary and we have to address it. And it's something that's going on now. But again, ask the questions. People like Matt are here to help your organization and to get those questions answered.
Yeah. And look, we're going to kind of work with very large organizations. And I would say most companies today, if you're not leveraging some sort of workforce technology, HR technology, probably behind the times.
Mm-hmm.
So number one is embrace it. Technology's here to stay. And again, I would say focus on your systems, right? What's the lifeblood? What's pumping out your HCM, whether it's Workday, whether it's iSIM, SuccessFactors, Oracle. We integrate with them all. Yeah. Right. And if you're leveraging AI technologies like Fountain, like Paradox, this is only helping the recruiter candidate experience. We integrate with them all.
Yeah. So I have two final questions for you. This first one's very much like a scenario. So Matt, I'm a retailer. Okay. I'm looking to improve my hiring and my background screening processes. What advice do you have for me?
Get a team together, right? And I say when I get a team together, there's a lot of people that are involved in what I say a sound background screening program. It's not just talent acquisition. It's not just asset protection. It's not just finance. It's not just the field. It's really everybody. We just worked with someone that we brought on board, and I would say there was probably 70 different stakeholders that worked that program because everybody is involved. In retail, it's that frontline manager. We don't need them behind a computer screen. We need them on the floor interacting with our customers. The candidate has to make sure that they can get through this. It's fast, it's easy. Candidates have choices out there, right? There's still a war for talent. And so if your process isn't the best, and if they don't recognize with your brand, then you're probably going to lose out on that. Sorry, one more time. Remind me. Give me one more that I need, Kaylin. What's the question here? Optimize, right? I'll come back.
You're good.
I can keep going.
No, you're good. Keep going. I was like, take this offline and keep going. Keep going. You can post on LinkedIn every single day something. Right. So my last question for you is there something that you think companies are overlooking in background screening that could potentially make a big difference to their program?
Yeah, I think it's assess your program, right? What may have worked 3 years ago, 2 years ago, may not be relevant today.
Yeah.
And so I really think it's checks and balances. Are we running the right types of searches? Maybe we are drug testing today, but maybe there's a different way to do it. Maybe we can speed things up. We have a team that comes in there with our partners and we'll do an end-to-end process. It's just part of doing business with First Advantage. And we'll find some areas for improvement. And whether that's background screen related or not, we can help remove some of those obstacles. So I think take a pulse on the program, right? Things are always changing. Again, with technology, there's stuff today that was not available, 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's definitely not a set it and forget it type of approach. So, and I say that because I did set and forget my crock pot this morning. That's when you do that, not for background screening. No. Always ask the questions, always evaluate. And the First Advantage team is here, and we do that with customers. So definitely look into that, evaluation, just consistent improvement and optimization as well. I say it's in the title.
Yeah, and I think it's challenging the teams, right? Challenging the organization to think differently about the importance of a well-rounded program.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I want to take this time. Those were all of my questions. But if you are watching live on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, if you have any final questions for Matt around the topics that we discussed today, now's your chance. Get them in. While we wait for any final questions, Matt, I would just love to get some final thoughts from you today.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This was lots
Of
of fun,
course.
and I will do it again. I know I have a public audience here, so
Wrote it
there's
down. He's
that
coming back for episode 2.
experience matters, maybe with a special guest.
Yes.
No, I think, I am very passionate about the brand. I love to have fun, high energy. But again, I think this is a good industry to be in on both sides, right? We're doing great things. We're putting people to work. We're making sure that people are safe.
Yeah.
And just know that there's options out there, and don't be afraid to look at it, reach out. We're here to help.
Absolutely. I think that was a lovely way for us to sign off. So we will do just that. But Matt, just taking a quick second, thank you for joining me on FA Live today.
Thanks for having me, Caitlin.
Of course. And thank you to our audience, whether you're watching live or tuning in on demand. We always appreciate you. We will be back on June 4th with our next episode. So stay tuned on social media for what that is. With that being said, thank you again for joining, and I will catch you next time.